Everyone, how's it going? And thanks for checking out another one of my videos. So I wanted to create another video rolling off the last one, promoting VS Code remote dev containers. And I wanted to show how it synergizes really well with GitHub Codespaces that's currently in its beta period. So just to recap, let's go over the benefits of the Visual Studio Code remote dev containers. And what I'm going to do is I am going to show you a repository project that I have been developing, which is Uberauth Twitch. It's an Elixir package that allows you to authenticate with Twitch using Uberauth as the library, and it's a plugin for it. So what I want to do is I want to just get this up and running. So I currently don't have this installed on my system. I'm not sure if I have all the dependencies on here. What we're going to do is we're going to get this up and running in VS Code dev containers. This is the first time I'm actually installing it on my machine. I've been developing this package on one of my Macs. So let's go ahead and go to VS Code and try giving and cloning it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the git clone command on VS Code, and I am going to get the Uberauth Twitch package, and we're just going to clone it down to our main Visual Studio Code container. And let's go ahead and open up that package. So we have the package, the whole repository cloned down and set up. And this repository has already been set up with the dev container configuration so that we can just, get developing right away, no problems. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and get this up and running. So if I can do the Command Shift P command and try to look up the remote containers. Or what I can do is the easier one is bottom left click and reopen in a container for remote. So let's say remote containers, reopen in container because we already have the configuration file set up. If not, you can go ahead and add development container configurations, is what we covered in the last video. So let's go ahead and just reopen in a container since this is already set up. And what it's going to do is it's going to look at the requirements that have been configured in the dev container through the Docker compose and Docker file, and go and download all that stuff. So this is going to take a little bit because it's going to have to go and download the new Docker image and stuff like that this development environment is configured with. But as long as it's as fast as your interconnection is fast, but the hope is at the end of this, you will have a full functioning development environment that and have all the dependencies needed to run that environment. So let's take a moment and wait for it to finish downloading. And all right, looks like it's finished downloading the Docker image. It's ran all the scripts inside the Docker file, and we are ready to develop. So we should have a fully functioning development environment in here. So let's go ahead and check out IX dash. Let's go ahead and check out IX version. So we have IX. We're using Erlang version 1.11.3. And we should be able to just run any of the commands in here to start developing. Oops. Oh, looks like we need to run a mix deps get. Let's do that. We just installed all the dependencies, mix test. Now we should be able to just run the test files, and we have an environment for this library all set up and ready to go, and without much in the way of configuration needed, going from what I've been building on my Mac straight onto my Windows PC. It's just that easy, which is why I absolutely love the remote dev containers, is because I don't have to I don't have to worry about all the configuration and setup stuff for my different projects. It's all, I can set it up all in the dev container configuration and just clone it down and run that in its own little tiny development sandbox. I can't ask for anything better than that. So let's take a moment and wait for the tests to finish compiling the project and running. And it was just, by the time I finished talking it, there it is, it's done. So we have 7 tests, 0 failures. We were able to run the tests and all type of awesome stuff. All right, now to talk about why this synergizes well with GitHub Codespaces. So first thing is what is GitHub Codespaces? So let's go ahead and look up what GitHub Codespaces is. So GitHub Codespaces is a development environment in the cloud. So basically, you can work on any of your projects that are hosted on GitHub in the cloud, running in a browser, or you can open it up directly and via VS Code. Right now, it is in early access / beta. So you are going to have to request access to and hopefully get admitted into it. But the secret behind this, of what makes this run, is it uses remote containers under the hood to get it up and running. So why is that awesome? Well, the awesome thing is that if you've set up your project to have a dev container configuration like this Elixir project, what I can do is I can get this up and running, developing in the cloud on GitHub Codespaces without any effort whatsoever. So all I got to do is go in here, and if you have access to GitHub Codespaces, there's open with Codespaces, and we're going to create a new Codespace. And now we just let GitHub Codespaces do its thing. So it's going to do the exact same thing that we did with the remote dev containers locally. And it's going to look at our dev containers file that we have configured here. It is going to clone the Docker image and run it through Docker Compose and look at all the configurations in our dev container.json and get our environment up and running. So we could actually just see the logs right here, and it's doing the exact same thing we did locally, just in the cloud. So let's go ahead and give it a little time to finish its thing, and I will be back shortly. All right, so GitHub Codespaces finished building and it opened up an instance of Visual Studio Code in the browser. Right now I'm running in Edge. So after it opens up Visual Studio Code, if you happen to be using the settings sync and signing in with your GitHub account, the cool thing is that it will automatically start synchronizing all of your settings into the Visual Studio Code that's running in your browser. So for better or worse, it's going to load all of your plugins at launch. So this is in a browser. So this is Edge right here, and we can see the terminal here. Visual Studio Code's running in the browser. So, and if I go in here and I type in IEX, so there's a little bit of latency right now. So if we type in IEX -V, we can see that we're running, because of our configuration, we have Elixir 1.11.3 installed in this machine in the cloud. So we can do the exact same thing we were doing locally, but now we have it configured in a remote environment in the cloud, in a secure environment that no one has access to unless you're working in a team setting. But even then, I don't even think they have access to it yet. So it's a little slow right now. It seems like. I'm not sure if it's still finishing updating or not, or if it's just Edge. So that's an interesting observation. So if I run mixed-dep-scat, let's go ahead and try to run the tests again. Except, yeah, that was pretty damn quick. So the cool thing is now we're running all these commands and stuff like that on a remote machine. So whatever the internet speed on that machine is, which is probably, it could be it's faster than mine. And the resources, purely dedicated resources, only on this machine. So you're not sharing resources with, with Discord running, or if you're listening to videos on the side. This machine's purely dedicated to running your code on that box. So that's really awesome too. So now we're just running a build, and let's go ahead and give it a second to finish. All right, so it finished running the compilation, and it ran the tests just like we did with locally, and all the tests pass. We have access to all the files here in the project directories, all hosted remotely through Visual Studio Code on the browser. And then we can also see the dev container configurations that it had used to set everything up. So it's all up and running and smooth, and we're running it in a browser setting. We're running it remotely. So this is really awesome, because this also allows you to potentially develop anywhere you want, as long as you have access to the internet. So now this code space has been set up on the cloud, and you can connect to it from any browser that you're logged in with GitHub. So what I've done in the past, just for fun, was I've actually developed on a tablet. I went on the browser. I downloaded Edge on my tablet, and you can use any Chromium based browser. So Chrome, Edge, they work fine. I've tried Firefox. Firefox can get a little funky. So it is highly recommended you use a Chromium based browser for when trying to connect browser based GitHub Codespaces. And I developed on on my tablet. And it's possible because the server's in the cloud. You're not using, you don't have to worry about environment configuration and stuff like that. You are using a machine in the cloud, and all you're doing is connecting to it and through the browser, and using VS Code in the browser. Awesome. So there's even a better configuration if because the browser immediately can get a little clunky to click around and do changes in. Sometimes your keybinds won't work because they're conflicting with browser keybinds, stuff like that. So you actually have the ability to open up your remote code space, your GitHub Codespace, in your local installation of VS Code. So it ends up acting like a remote container. And that's super easy. The best way to do it, I found, is you click on the little hamburger menu on the top right, and there's an option to open in VS Code or VS Code Insiders. So let's go ahead and just click on opening it in VS Code Insiders. So let's close this project here. And we're going to go ahead and just close and back out of this one right here. Let's go ahead and open Visual Studio Code again. So it's not obvious, very obvious, but we just connected to the Uberauth Twitch GitHub Codespace. You can tell by right here on the top right, it says Codespaces. So right now we are remotely connected to that machine that's running our code, but we're running this inside of Visual Studio Codes, and the indicators are here in the Codespaces, and on the bottom left too. Instead of remote container or anything like that, we are connected to the Codespace. So we are developing on our machine on a local installation of VS Code, but connected to the project that is running on a remote machine and using in Azure. So this is an Azure infrastructure. So that is really, really cool. So I've actually also used this recently. I am currently working on a new project written in Phoenix Elixir. And I have it set up in GitHub Codespaces, so I don't have to worry about it's the project set up from machine to machine. Regardless of which machine I'm on, whether it's on my Windows PC, on a Mac, or even on the tablet, I can connect to that remote instance and develop on that. So I only have one project in the cloud that I connect to and start developing out of, so I don't have to worry about cloning secrets and all those other configuration things between machines. It's just that one machine, that one cloud machine has it, and I connect to that and start doing my development out of that machine. So that's really, really fun. That's really, really cool. I've been really enjoying it so far, and it's I haven't had any major hiccups, but I do remember to commit all the time and push my code, because you never know when something bad can happen, because after all, this is early access. So it's like, oh yeah, okay. You're like, okay, Eric, that's cool and all, but I don't know how to set up a dev container configuration, or, I just have a simple JavaScript project. I don't want to go to figuring out how to configure this to run GitHub Codespaces and stuff like that. No problem. There is a default configuration that GitHub Codespaces launches with. So if you happen to access in GitHub Codespaces and you want to give it a try, you don't have to worry about like, oh, I need to configure my dev container configuration and stuff like that. There is a default configuration you can use. So I'm just gonna pick one of my projects, which is my React Twitch embed video. This is a JavaScript based project for React. It's a component library that people can use for embedding Twitch embeds on their React application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up in GitHub Codespaces. So, and I don't have a .dev container configuration in here. So what I'm going to do is open up with Codespaces. and I'm gonna try to open up a new code space. So it's gonna get it right now in the beta. We're limited to only 2 code spaces at a time. So I'm just gonna go ahead and delete my Uber Twitch one that we just created, and let's open up a new code space. So by default, if there's no dev container configuration, the GitHub Codespaces comes with a default environment to work out of. So, and that default environment contains a number of different languages already pre-installed. It has Node. It has, I believe, Python, Java. It might even have C in it. I can't remember. It's always changing. It's always growing, and the configuration is always there. But I can open this up, and I have this open now in GitHub Codespaces, just running for development. So now it's just running. It's running a machine that the machine's already, and it's quicker because we're using the built-in GitHub Codespaces configuration image. So it was much quicker because it didn't have to compile and build out a new environment. It went ahead and just used the pre-built GitHub Codespaces one. So it was really fast to do it. So if we go into here, so here it is installing all my synced extensions. So if we go in here, we do have a version of Node in here ready to go. And so for my JavaScript based project, if I wanted to start doing development on here, I can just go ahead and run yarn, and it's going to go ahead and install yarn in here. Let's say you need a very specific version of Node, no problem. NVM is in here, is configured as part of the GitHub Codespace default environment. So you can easily go ahead and use NVM in here. So you don't have to worry about actually configuring pre-configuring a GitHub Codespace environment. You can use the default one and add to it. Not a problem. So for for Elixir's not at least not at the time I was developing in here. So let's see if IX is in here. Oh, some input lag. Yep, no IEX. So by default, it is in here. So that's why I had to build out my own development environment configuration to get Elixir and Erlang in there. But if you're just a JavaScript developer, or you just want an environment to start editing your code in, you can just launch your repository in GitHub Codespaces and get developing right there, and then installing using apt-get to install any missing languages or packages that you need for your project. But often than not, if you're a lot of people are JavaScript developers or want to just do or work on their JavaScript project, you can just launch it straight out of the box and get coding on here. So let's go ahead and check our process right here. And we're installing yarn, and it's, node be node and installing all the packages under the sun. But that's how easy it is to even get started with GitHub Codespaces if you manage to get access. So I highly recommend signing up for the early access for GitHub Codespaces. Give it a try. It's free early access too, so you can have a lot of fun with it. So click that button, get access to it, and try to set up your project. So if you have any questions about GitHub Codespaces or or want any advice, just feel free to reach out to me in the comments, reach out to me on Twitch or on Discord. And hopefully you enjoyed this rambling video. And yeah, I'm excited about it, and I really, really like it. And I hope you get some enjoyment either at GitHub Codespaces or just the remote containers for Visual Studio Code. So hopefully catch you on the next video, and give me a like if you enjoyed this video, and I hope to make some more. All right, everyone. Talk to you later.